right, everybody. Welcome to the Gilder Spotlight podcast. I am super excited for today's guest. His name is James Corwin. He is a famous artist out of actually my home state of Montana. But James, I would love for you to give an introduction of yourself.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here. I'm a wildlife artist. I grew up in Montana and have been painting full time for 10 years now. I started January of 2014, right out of college. And I initially started painting landscapes, but now paint wildlife primarily from around the world. I love to travel and paint all species that I see.
Oops, looks like I was you still there? Sorry, I lost you for like a second.
Yes,
But you
I'm
said
still here.
initially started painting landscapes.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Just of, the beautiful landscapes of Montana around me. I grew up just right outside Glacier National Park, so it served both as a playground and endless inspiration.
I know you grew up in Montana, and I know that
Yeah.
you'd go to Glacier National Park and get inspiration, but um, what was it like kind of, I know Glacier National Park is really busy nowadays. What was your experience going with your family growing up?
Yeah, it has been, and honestly, I am lucky if I get there once a year. Growing up, gosh, we would spend, it seemed like every weekend there in the summer and sometimes afternoons, because it was only like 30 to 45 minutes from the house.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, you could just there wasn't ever the lines, and you could park at Logan Pass and just get on a trail. And I not sure if because a, I'm tuned into seeing wildlife and looking for it that it
Hmm.
seems like wildlife is more abundant now than it was when I was a kid, but I
Hmm.
don't I'm not sure. I think that might just because I'm always looking for animals and I wasn't so much when I was younger.
When,
But yeah, go ahead.
yeah, when you're younger, because I was reading in your bio that
Hmm.
you discovered that you could paint at 18. Before
Yeah,
then, what did you want to do, or what did you think that, your career was going to be like before then?
absolutely. Yeah, it was music.
Okay.
I or something in film. And uh, for music specifically, it would have been film scoring, composition. And I was writing music much through my teen years, and I applied to music schools and to colleges for their music program. And it wasn't until, well, I took an art class my senior year of high school and junior year, but I started painting my senior year, and my art teacher encouraged me to apply for an art scholarship, and I did and ended up earning it. And of course, the stipulations on that is you have to
Hmm.
get an art degree to keep the scholarship, right? So I
Okay.
quickly had to kind of pivot what I thought I'd be doing in college, which was music composition, to picking a school that had an art program and getting an art degree. And so I did that and just began painting a lot in my dorm room. And during the summer, would go to the farmers markets and little art fairs and festivals around Montana and would set up a table. And at that time, I was doing these little mini paintings. They're like 3 inches by 3 inches or 2 by 4, and
Hmm.
on little canvases with little
Wow.
mini easels. And I would just during the week paint hundreds of them and and then put them all out on display, and it'd be like 20 bucks a pop for these little um, paintings. And so I would do that through the summers and slowly just started selling
That's a,
them. Yeah.
it sounds like you started pretty much two things, your creative
Mhm.
endeavors and your entrepreneurial endeavors. around the
Yes.
same time when that 18. Um, what what
Oh,
made you
I was.
decide to get into entrepreneurship and kind of start selling your creations? Because that's a really unique idea, and I know a lot of people are passionate about painting, but they never go after it the way it sounds like you did. So, what inspired you to kind of go after it?
Sure. I have always wanted to be an owner of my own business. I think uh, 12 years old, I want to say, I kind of made a statement out loud
Hmm.
that I'm going to work for myself and have really stayed true to that. And during the summers, I would just find ways to earn income, like whether it's like, you know, contacting people and doing yard work and mowing lawns to
Hmm.
make money during the summer. And I just, I don't know, both my parents had their own businesses and had it could create their own schedule. And I really appreciated that growing up. So I suppose I wanted the same. And so, yeah, art allowed me to do that, though I think it's one of the harder businesses to be successful in and financially successful. Um, Certainly, if I, I could have chosen something different, but um, at that time, I had something that I could do that created the lifestyle I wanted, which was to work for myself and do something creative every day and wake up, and have my own schedule and be responsible for
Hmm.
myself.
Wow, I love that. And just curious, what inspired you to create the little 2x4 or like the miniature paintings? Like, how did that come into the picture? Because that's such a unique idea that I think that would, I mean, a lot of folks don't offer that. I mean, I go to the Missoula Farmers Market and I mean, that's a really cool idea, especially for 10 years ago. Like, it's just,
Oh, for sure. And they were great. I would sell so many of those. And I think it really, how I got the idea, I'm not really sure. I think I saw at Michael's they were selling the little
hmm.
canvases, and I thought, oh, that'd be fun. I'll do little paintings on
Hmm.
those. But
Those easels, yeah.
ultimately, yeah. But ultimately, what I think it really honed my skill on doing detail because each piece is small and I each one's a different image, right? A different
Hmm.
painting. And so after you do hundreds of these over and over again, it just really honed down that detail and skill, and which is, the paintings I do now are very detailed. So I think without even realizing at the time, it was kind of honing that skill for that I would later develop into larger pieces.
Wow. And I think, and for those of you that are listening, James has some of the most detailed art that I've ever seen of different animals, different landscapes. That takes a lot of time to
Mhm.
get that kind of detail and a lot of mental meditation almost and like focus. How did that skill kind of start honing to, I know that you from doing like the small paintings, but how were you able to, it's almost meditative too, but like how long did it take you to do one of your pieces and how are you able to focus for that amount of time? It's an amazing talent to have in this day and generation.
Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say it is meditational. I feel, and now after doing it almost every day for 10 years, there isn't a lot of thought that goes into it. It's more effortless now, but I work on one piece at a time, and so that way all my focus and energy does go into that one idea. That allows me to, I feel, get it done more quickly. And as far as speed, I tell people it really depends on obviously the size of the painting and the complexity
Hmm.
of it. Like there's a lot of things going on, and or if I painted like a polar bear in a bunch of snow, that would certainly
Right,
go faster than something with like 100 seagulls flying up from the beach or
right.
something. Um, but it 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 I like working on one at a time because all that inspiration and excitement for that idea is then served through the whole painting. And I find when I start to bring in more paintings and swap things out, I get back to it,
Hmm.
and it's kind of I'm like, oh, the energy's kind of a little dull now
Right.
on it. So um, I think when I tell people, oh, that, that big painting only took me a week to do, they're really astonished. But that's also like, well, that was still like 80 hours of work, you know?
Right. And how do you find the right content to paint? Because I feel like as an artist, the artist creates that content for it's different than like a company because the company creates stuff for the consumer, but the artist it seems like they create something from themselves that the consumer will ultimately enjoy. So how do you find the inspiration on what to paint?
For sure. I'm always trying to figure that out because it is a balance. For the idea, I'm trying to find something that inspires me, that I'm excited to bring to life, but that also people would be interested in owning and seeing as well, because
Hmm.
I do need to sell it
Right,
and
right.
maybe make a limited edition print series of it. So I want it to be a marketable idea. But I think the spirit of it, what I look for are two things. One, is this idea something new and original that people haven't really seen before, or is like something like a different take on something that is unique?
Interesting.
And
Hmm.
then two, most importantly, what's the emotion that I want to bring out of the viewer? And that can be through the eyes of the animal, or the lighting even, or
Hmm.
what the story is, what's happening. So if I
Wow.
can, I usually sit down and I'll be like, okay, I want to paint a bear. Now,
Hmm.
what is this bear doing, and what's the story, and what's the setting? So I start to craft it almost like a movie, um,
Hmm.
because it needs that emotional element. But at the same time, I want this bear to be
Wow.
like any other bear anyone's seen before. And that
Wow.
doesn't always come so easy. It's easy to say the process, but right now people are
Right.
asking, "What's your next painting?" I'm like, "I don't know. I can't. I haven't figured it out yet." So and
Wow.
when that happens, I just do. I'm still painting every day, so I'm just doing like paintings that I know will sell. I know that that's
Hmm.
like hard to admit as an artist, but we all do it.
Right.
Like I know if I
Right.
paint like a bison in snow, that'll sell. So I'm like, I could do,
Right.
a
Right.
house, but so I do like paintings while I'm waiting for the big one.
I love it. I love that process, and I think that's it's hard to find that justifiable medium of bringing like the passion and emotion, but also general, being like, oh, that's also like a bear, like, but that
Yes.
that mix and that feeling. You're obviously a very successful artist, James. I was reading more about your bio. I read that you opened up your first studio in Hamilton, Montana, about 4 years
Yes.
ago in 2020. That
Mhm.
was only 6 or 7 years into your art career. What
Yeah.
was it like building that in those 6 or 7 years up to having your studio? And then I'll ask about how you feel about your studio. But what was
Yeah.
that journey like?
Journey. Yeah. I was I had moved down to Hamilton, Montana, and I had a 4 bedroom, 3 bath house, and I don't know why I had to tell you about the bathrooms, but
A big house though, it sounds like.
well, the 4 bedrooms, what happened is one was my studio, and I ended up needing to hire employees, and we took over 3 of the bedrooms plus the garage for storage,
Wow.
and so their home really just became a big office, and I needed to obviously get rid of not have that happen. And so
Right.
I was thinking, okay, if I get office studio space for my employees and I would like to have some sort of retail space as a part of that to sell art in. So I'd been watching the markets for a while, and a building came on that I could buy in downtown Hamilton, right on the main street, because if
Hmm.
you're going to do some sort of retail, you want good foot traffic, and it
Hmm.
had great like rooms and stuff in the back. So I got that building and started Corwin Galleries. And actually, I did have an attempt at starting a gallery, just purely gallery in Missoula, but it
Hmm.
was right at the pandemic time, like right before.
Not good
So
timing.
we closed it and then also reopened towards the kind of middle to end in Hamilton.
Hmm.
And through that, then this whole other passion of representing other artists was born. And now I have a second gallery that I just opened in Aspen, Colorado, and hoping to
That's
continue to
amazing.
open more around the country.
And just curious, when did the switch happen from being at local farmers markets and selling your art to
Yeah.
having more big pieces being sold to ultimately having two galleries and two studios that you now sell and share other people's art? Like when did that transition happen? Like
Yeah, yeah,
from
it's
the kind of smaller art to like now you're big time, obviously. Still,
right.
yeah.
I it's a slow process, but it builds and gets better every year. Um, so I was in my early years doing more um, I coming out of the farmers market, I would then do more like regional art fairs or
Wow.
in kind of national art festivals, that happen in different
Hmm.
cities around the country every year. And like some of those, which wasn't art specific, but I started doing like Safari Club International and Dallas Safari Club. And that's when I took a trip to Africa, and I was so inspired by the wildlife there, and that's when I made that switch to painting wildlife because I wasn't really happy with how my landscape paintings were looking, but I was really happy with my rhino painting that I did.
Right,
And
right.
so maybe I can paint wildlife better than I can paint landscapes, and which I
Hmm.
still think is true today. But I made that switch about like 5 years or so into
Wow.
painting. Um, uh, but anyway, so at those Safari Club shows, I was doing the
Hmm.
wildlife paintings and starting to get commissions and just selling more pieces. I was able to get my art into some galleries and then also meanwhile was building up my audience with limited edition prints or customer
Hmm.
clients, I should say. And I was also doing something that a lot of artists weren't doing, as far as I know, which was running Facebook ads to
I
drive
see.
traffic to my website for selling prints. And I spent a lot of time. So a lot of my business knowledge and things I've learned have just been reading hundreds of books and studying
Mhm.
and taking courses and stuff. So I went into a deep dive of Facebook ad marketing and learning how
Wow.
to create ads, and they worked really well. And I also got like my
Amazing.
yeah, and got my art onto like Amazon and Etsy and
Hmm.
eBay and other sites like that. And so the print sales started to ramp up and be really good. And of course, um, the I focus a lot on keeping relationship with my customers, so they would
Hmm.
become repeat buyers or then they would buy
Wow.
originals. And that's the building upon itself to the point where I need an assistant to just help me with,
Hmm.
customers and emailing back and
Right.
forth and order fulfillment. And
All the
so that,
administrative stuff, essentially.
yeah, because I found I was spending almost all my time doing that, like fulfilling
Hmm.
orders, signing prints, and ordering
Hmm.
everything. So that's when I hired my first employee to help with that. And then,
How old were you, by the way, when you hired your first employee?
oh
Because
gosh,
because
I
you're
think
only,
it's 25 or
wow,
26
because
or
you're only
so.
30, right? Or you're
30
31?
now. 32,
Okay, okay.
32
I
now.
just know that you've had an incredible career for how young you are, because like most
Oh,
people don't get their own studio and their own house at 27 or how
yeah.
old you were, So
Yeah.
that's amazing. But so
Thank you.
25, you got your own assistant.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So then I needed another artist. I needed an assistant artist to help me
oh
keep up
wow.
with the demand of paintings. So then she would
Wow.
do like the underpainting stage, which I still need somebody. I haven't had somebody in a little bit, but anyway. Um, so yeah, so then she was so that way I could get a little bit more paintings out
It
and into the marketplace.
it sounded like, or it sounds like you have an amazing background in business. Like you have an incredible business acumen. And I know that you said that your parents were entrepreneurs, but it
Hmm.
seems like for most people they can't sit down and read 100 different books and just learn it themselves. But you were able to do that.
Yeah.
What kind of what was lighting that fire to do all that research and kind of be like, all right,
Sure.
I'm a creator, but I also want to master the business side so I can also live and have a good lifestyle that I want. What lit
Absolutely.
that fire under you?
Well, I talked about music a little bit, but honestly, I think the passion for business came first, came
Okay.
before the painting. And whether it was painting, it would have been something else. I just know that I have such a passion for business and growing a business that it would have been something, and I don't think I my personality would have let me avoid it, you know.
Right,
Um,
right.
so it comes easier to me because there already is an underlying passion and excitement for learning things business related or finance and accounting and all that. Other people,
Hmm.
it might be really boring, but I find it exciting because it's applicable. You can learn it and then apply it and then see if it works
Hmm.
or it doesn't. Um, and how to, adjust from there. And I think, what I've learned in business is well, quite a lot, but um, I like reading other people's stories because it kind of helps me get through tough times because there's a lot of you in business, money is a tool, and I use money to help grow other things, and I can do all that I believe is the right, um, in preparation, but I'm not always right, and I've had some really big
Hmm.
financial pitfalls, and I they used to crush me, and I used to think of them as big failures, but really they were the best learning opportunities. And so I think business for me, it's like just going through school constantly because I'm just I pay for a course, like
Right,
a life course, like, and then I get served my education, whether it's sometimes
right.
it's successful and sometimes I'm like, oh, I learned that worked really well, or oh gosh,
Hmm.
like, what went wrong.
Right, right.
Um,
And I know,
yeah.
oh, sorry, what were you saying?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I know that you mentioned that, you know, you wanted to learn from other people's stories, and that'll ultimately help you from some of the failures that you've had.
Hmm.
How else were you able to, because I know a lot of folks that just, you know, fix it on that one failure and it brings them down. How were you
Yeah.
able to work past those failures? Besides obviously reading other stories, but what else were you able to do?
Yeah. Well, I know that thankfully the art still is the pillar that holds the business, right? So in I try all these other different things as to build another pillar in the business, but if they don't quite work,
Hmm.
I still have the art. So I'm like, okay, well I know like I I uh, people are still buying the art, and that
Hmm.
is good.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I also think that's like the good thing about like some businesses. It seems like people set them up and they go bankrupt and they don't have any assets. But
Right.
I mean, you pretty
Exactly.
much have you'll have, you know, a lot of assets, which is really cool. To kind of go back to
Mhm.
entrepreneurship and kind
Yeah.
of diving into like Facebook Marketplace, Amazon, Etsy,
Mhm.
all those different, tools. How did you just read a lot, or how were you able to kind of put all this together? Because I think a lot of artists just, I mean, I've talked to a lot of artists. Like a lot of my buddies are artists, and they
Yeah.
just create, and create, but have no idea how to what's the word I'm looking for? I guess implement, if that makes sense. Or yeah.
Absolutely.
So how did that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's two things I tell people who are
Hmm.
artists or creatives that want to, do more business is um, one, you have to you have to be willing to spend the money to grow the business, and even if that's just starting with a little bit, I think that was obviously a hurdle I had to overcome, but it's absolutely necessary.
Hmm.
And whether that comes from your own savings or from a business loan or something, and then also you have to delegate and hire people and hire well and hire people that are
Hmm.
smarter than you, that know what to do so that you can leave them to do the job, and so you can focus more on creating the art. And that's another
Hmm.
thing I learned, because it was hard to let go um, earlier on, and now I'm
Hmm.
grateful that I can, have these galleries running, have the employees doing their work, and I can still sit down at the easel undistracted for 10 hours and paint if I choose to.
Hmm.
Um, but to get to that point, I had to start somewhere, in spending money to grow the business.
Hmm.
And in that case was like being willing to put money into like online advertising and marketing,
Right.
and being willing to accept losing money in order to figure
Hmm.
out, tweak the ads, and make them work to where they
Right.
are
Right.
making money. And
Like
I
this
think,
$500 ad camp. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. Well, it can
Like
be
it's
like
worth.
you can put 500 in, and then find that you didn't get anything out of it and be like, ah, this doesn't work, and then just completely give up.
Give up.
But you can't. You have to
Right.
put
Right.
100 and do some tweaking. But of course, I wouldn't go in with that much
Did
right all at
Just
once.
curious, because I mean, I'm doing a business where we're doing marketing campaigns. How did you
Yeah,
know like the right wording for these ad campaigns?
I read a
Like,
book.
how did you know
So,
that it was gonna be
right.
okay?
Yeah, read books on
I
copy.
need your reading list. I feel like you know a lot of good books.
Yeah, yeah, because it's, and then, yeah, and just then testing the different copy.
Because that was before ChatGPT,
Oh
you know?
yeah, I still don't even use that, and I
Oh,
I maybe I should look into it.
yeah, I mean. it can be your virtual assistant for
Yeah,
creation, you know. I mean, for at least on like word creation, not
for
not like
sure.
painting, but yeah, James, I want to get back to art because that's a field that I'm not exactly like how the art world works, the creator world works. I have a lot of favorite artists. You're actually one of my favorite artists now because just
Wow,
your art's
cool.
absolutely
Thank you.
breathtaking with how much detail it is. I've never seen anything quite that amazing.
Thank you.
What's like the average week like for James Corwin? You run two studios. I know that you're back and forth between Aspen and Montana, but what's like an average week like, would you say?
Yeah, wow. It's typically I try to be up between 6 and 7 and a morning, especially now in 2024. So
Right.
2023, whew, that was a really hard year. That tested me a lot. Not in like, well, in business for sure, but also just like my s- management and carrying capacity of how much can I do myself before I reach critical mass and I get really stressed, right? So I'm making those changes now this year, and one of those is just starting them, not even waking up near my phone, and starting the morning with just meditation and yoga. So I do that, and then I go right into painting and maybe some email work if it's needed, and then CrossFit at 11,
Right. Right.
and then working all the way till 6. So I
Wow.
try to get 10 to 12 hours of painting in, if I can. That's a goal. Um, I usually visit like the art gallery in Hamilton, which is an hour
Hmm.
south of me, about once a week. And then for Aspen, I fly out there as needed for certain events that we have. And but this week I've launched back up these paint classes, these paint nights at the gallery, and I have three
Very cool.
classes this week from 6 to 8 on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we've completely sold out of every single class, which is exciting.
Wow.
And yeah, yeah, each class is
Congrats.
20 people. Thank
Wow.
you. So I a lot of people have been asking for the classes, and it's um it takes a lot of time and energy, but I think winter is always good for doing these because people are looking for something to
Right.
do. So I want to actually get some also going in Missoula as well. So I'm going to work on
Wow.
that. So yeah, so the next couple of weeks are going to be busy painting and
Hmm.
teaching. And
Very
then
cool. And then,
yeah.
oh wait,
And
sorry.
then it's like working on the business that's always
Hmm.
ongoing. And one
Hmm.
of my projects for 2024 that I really neglected last year is I have an art business course online with a couple thousand
Very
students.
cool.
And
Wow.
the
Okay.
yeah, but the content's really outdated, and I've already rewritten all the content. I just need to
Hmm.
record all the videos and get that back
Very cool.
uploaded. And I want to build that community more, to be more in engaging and be more present for the students. So I'm looking at how I can offer more time there.
Very cool. Well, if you needed any help with Gilder We
Yes.
Are a community, so if you need any help with community stuff, let me know. I'd love to dive in and see if we can collaborate also. But very cool. And
Mhm.
basically, you have so many different things going on. You have your art studio, you have or
Mhm.
two art studios, you have your
Mhm.
classes that you're giving, you have you're offering the community more, more
Yes.
content and more things.
Mhm.
And you mentioned that you wanted to optimize your time. H-
Yeah.
how do you balance all of this? Because it seems like it's like you're wearing like five different hats and doing
I
like 200-hour work weeks every week.
feels that way. It really does. I try to from 6 to when I go to bed at like 9:30, 10. That's like no work time, and
Hmm.
that's taken years to learn how to do.
Wow.
And I'm still not very good at it, but I try. Um, and weekends too are no work if I can help it. Um, and I also love to travel, so I try to
Hmm.
squeeze in trips when I can. But I don't really have anything planned this winter, just because I couldn't figure out where to go yet.
Hey,
But usually it's
hey,
someplace.
if you want to come down, I'll meet you
I
in Torre del Paine. You know what I mean? Down in Chile. I'll meet you in
I
southern Chile if you want to do a
yeah,
cool excursion. Even
absolutely.
next year, like literally, we can plan that out.
That'd be great.
But
I want to photograph the pumas down there.
oh yeah, they have also just the
So,
foliage and the geography looks just
oh,
just a
it's
lot different than North America.
incredible.
Um, but speaking of traveling, where have you traveled to, and what's your favorite spot?
Oh gosh, I've been
Yeah.
to South Africa twice, uh, Kenya twice, and
Wow.
Namibia, and Costa Rica a few times, Europe a few times. But gosh, Africa always has my
Wow.
heart. I love going to Costa Rica too, but yeah, it's otherworldly,
Yeah.
and just seeing the wildlife is so special.
Did you visit
Some I
Kruger
have
National Park?
actually, I know I've always been in that area north of it and on other reserves up in
Hmm.
South Africa, but haven't made it to Kruger yet. I want to, because I also just see a lot of my friends that go and they take amazing pictures. I'm like, gosh, the
It's
wildlife is so
I
good
went
there.
I went back in 2018, and it was probably one of the most amazing trips I've ever been on, just because, well, you know the Big Five, right? We were
Oh
able to
yeah,
see the Big Five, which was fantastic. Which, for those of you listening, it's a
that's close.
rhino. Sorry, what? A lion, a
Yeah.
giraffe, rhino, lion, giraffe. What are the other two? I don't. I shouldn't have even said it, but there. It's called the Big Five, like the Big Five. And you've probably seen all of them, right? You've seen and
Yeah, but it's
encountered a
super
lot of them.
important to see all five in a trip. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the rhino, the elephant, the lion, the leopard, and the Cape buffalo.
Yep, yep,
And
yep.
typically the leopard is the most elusive and hard to see. Um, and it actually took me 3 trips to see the big
Wow,
five. Yeah, I
wow.
couldn't see the leopards.
Wow. Yeah, we got super lucky.
Yeah.
But also Kenya too. I hear that there's some of the most amazing reserves up right there in
Mm.
between Kenya and Tanzania.
Yes,
Um,
so beautiful.
and
It
then Namibia too. I heard that it's like German architecture in the desert. That's all I've heard. I've never been in Namibia. I've only been to South Africa and
it's
Tanzania and Kenya. But
it's so like clean too. I don't know how to explain it.
yeah.
It was all the roads are like like look like they're like perfectly maintained, and all the
Hmm.
buildings and like everything was just like so manicured in a way.
Yeah.
It was
Did you
very
go?
interesting.
Did you go to that one red? I don't know what it's called, but it's like super red with like dead trees kind of everywhere.
I
In
didn't
Namibia,
the desert, but I really want
the
to.
desert. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's up there. I want to go to Botswana next in the Okavango Delta and
Hmm.
the desert there in
Wow.
Namibia. Yeah.
Botswana, I hear, is a fantastic place.
I
The people are amazing too.
yes.
But yeah, Africa in general is so beautiful, incredible.
Hmm.
Um, but you got to come to South America too at some
I
point because I
know.
think
I
you'd think
know.
something about the Southern Hemisphere. You know what I mean? Like the Southern Hemisphere is just like it's different geography, different animals. Um, yeah.
It's so good. It's so good.
And have you been to Cape Town? Did you go to Cape Town
No,
when you're in?
I usually
Okay.
the 2 times I've been to South Africa, I flew into Johannesburg and
Mhm.
just immediately
Just
went
go to the
north
northern part.
to the
Yeah.
yeah to kind of Pretoria area, and
Hmm.
mountains up there.
Very
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah.
Cape Town's amazing if you ever have time to go check it out. The geography
Here,
is super beautiful. I'm not sure if there's any cool animals, but just Table Mountain's super cool and unique.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I really want to get down there. I want to see the penguins and maybe do a shark dive or
Oh
something.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I was too scared to do a shark dive, but I did see the penguins, which is really cool.
Oh, nice.
But I do actually would want to do it next time because I hear that you're in a cage and it's
Yeah.
relatively safe. But
Cool. Yeah. It'd be
yeah.
fun.
But one more thing, James, I forgot to
Yeah.
ask you. You did mention that you started meditating. Did you start that this year, or when did you start meditating?
Yeah, uh, more religiously this year. Off and on over past years. I feel like doing art in itself is meditation because I'm
Right.
well, I'll listen to like podcasts or music,
Hmm.
but I'm really left to just my own thoughts, and much of that time is spent processing things that are going
Hmm.
on and trying to work through my mind. And I think, meditation then is trying to still the mind and have an
Right.
absence of thought, which is actually kind of hard to do when I'm meditating because my mind just
Right.
wanders. Um, but yeah, so it doing that has really helped uh, kind of stabilize my day so that I'm not just going through these kind of roller coasters of stress and anxiety
Hmm.
and frustration over things that don't really deserve that kind of
That.
emotion.
Right. Right. Has meditation helped you with your time optimality and also your overall just feel of when you're
Yes,
putting the paint on the canvas, the
yes,
brush on the
I
canvas?
feel like I'm more focused through the whole day and not as kind of torn between all the different hats that I'm wearing and trying to kind of do little things of each one, but rather
Hmm.
that I can be focused and more diligent about what deserves attention now and what can wait till later.
I love that.
Yeah,
Well, James, I really appreciate your insights. I have one last question for you.
absolutely. Yeah.
What type of advice would you give an artist starting out their career?
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, there's so much advice. Um, I feel like, you know, the art, if it has a story and, the art is the product of the creation. And I think a lot of times where people get hung up is whether it's even good or not or should be seen,
Hmm.
but it should be. And I think that's the most important uh, thing that an artist needs to focus on is getting their art seen. And that involves marketing. And when you're just starting, you need as much visibility as you can get. Get your art everywhere online as much as you can, and you
Hmm.
can do that for free. And you can, and then contact all sorts of, bloggers and have them write an article and
Hmm.
then set up your own events locally to get people to come see your art because that's really what it takes is just getting your art seen. um, but then, once you do start, because you will start making sales, because when people see your art
Hmm.
and see you and you share your story, people will buy that. and
Hmm.
and then you can start doing more heavy marketing, if whether that's magazine ads or whatever. But um that's certainly a major um bit of advice that I like to give is
I
just get your art seen.
I love that. And
And then also
one more
don't be
question.
afraid to spend money.
Okay.
Don't be afraid
Definitely don't.
on yourself, whether that's, you
Right.
know, growing the business, but also in education,
Hmm.
and buying books or attending business courses or classes
Hmm.
online or in person. But really, ultimately, your success depends on what you put in, and that can be both time and money, but it's pretty crucial.
I love that. And one more question came to mind as you're
Yeah.
saying all that. You seem to have such a tailwind start of a career, and
Mhm.
obviously read a lot of books. You're very business acumen mixed with that creative side, which is a fantastic combination. But did
Mhm.
you have a mentor or someone that you looked up to when you're first starting out in your career to kind of
Mm.
help with your foundation?
Almost the opposite. I had a mentor that I did look up to, and he said at one point, "You'll never get rich doing art." And then I said, in my mind, I said, "Oh yeah, watch me." And so I felt like it was, just kind of my like journey now, or to like prove people wrong that you can be successful as an artist. And this was very early on.
Hmm.
Um, and actually, like a lot of artists are very successful, and it
Right.
that the whole starving artist mentality is pretty bogus, because you can easily make a decent living creating and selling art. You just have to learn how to market it.
I love that. And I love how you have, the passion to kind of prove your mentor wrong and be like, yes. But it's
Yeah.
funny because like in Missoula, there's even a cafe. I don't know if it's still around, but there's literally a cafe called Starving Artists Cafe, and there's like the term
No.
starving artist. So it's like it's
Right.
kind of, but
I don't know where
I
that
see
came.
that perspective, but I feel like, yeah, you're definitely the epitome of the successful, amazing, like striving artist that's creating their passion, or sorry, spreading their passion, spreading their
from.
your skills to other people. So it's fantastic, and I love what you're doing, James.
Thank you.
One last thing, is there anything else that you'd like to let the Gilder Spotlight audience know?
Yeah, if you're interested in seeing the art that I do, my website is jamescorwin.com. So last name is Corwin. You can also just punch that into Google, and it'll
Perfect.
come up. And then my gallery is Corwin Galleries. And for, I guess, any artists that are listening, or people looking to create art and sell it, you can always reach out to me or find my art business course. Right now it's on Udemy and Skillshare.
Perfect.
Um,
I will put those all in link in bio.
Great. Instagram is
And
James
awesome,
Corwin.
James. Perfect. Well,
Awesome.
James, I really appreciate your time.
Thank,
Fantastic talking with you. I learned a lot about the art world, and so again, thank
thank
you
you.
again.
I appreciate it.
Cheers.